Dr. Davis, I want to thank you for joining us on the Insightful Journal with Dr. Lawrence Robinson. I want to introduce you formally right now, Dr. Lawrence Robinson, the erstwhile City Commissioner of Health in the city of Philadelphia, and a great gentleman. And I'd like to introduce Dr. Davis. And we can talk about, all those health things that you and I had talked about last night, man. Okay? So, Doc, you want to introduce yourself?
I will, and I'll get us started.
And then we'll get it started.
Okay. Give me a countdown.
5, 4, 3. Five, four, three, 2. You're on.
Welcome to the Insightful Journal. Today we have a very special guest. We have Dr. Doreen Davis. She will be discussing natural remedies for spiritual, mental, and emotional well-being. As you know, the Insightful Journal is concerned with the issues of health disparities. And we recognize that disparities in health are the most egregious of violations we have of our human rights. So we are trying to bring the knowledge that's needed to live a more fruitful and helpful life. Thank you so much, Dr. Davis. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? I noticed that you had a degree in social work, and also you have a PhD, but I'm not sure what that is. So just tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm a by education a social worker. By and I focus on the area of services. My area of expertise is services to family and children, and I am very much interested in research. I read research. I love research, so I learn a lot. I'm always on the internet. I very active in my community. I call myself a self-appointed community advocate, and that means that if I see something affecting the community of color and culture, I'm a letter writer. I'm a real letter writer. So, but I'm really interested. The bottom line is I'm interested in people and what, if anything, I can contribute to the well-being of us all.
Okay, well, that's very interesting. That's sort of similar, I guess, in many ways to my background. When we were discussing you, I told the producer that I'm an allopath. So as you know, they have the various different phases of medicine, but a lot of people don't realize it. An allopath is a plant doctor. So my training and background is in plants, and as opposed to surgery or homeopathy or some of the other areas of medicine. And think about it: all of the medicines that we use, they're derived from plants. So if it's pain, it's from an opiate, If it's aspirin, it's from a bark, If it's an antibiotic, it's a fungus, So all of the medicines that we use are plant-based medicines. Now, of course, we've redefined them, we synthesized them, we've determined what the effective dosage and all of that stuff, but underlining all of it, it's still natural remedies and medicines. So that's something that I think people should understand that.
It's funny because people are always using biblical quotes, and they're like, "Oh yes, God gave us all the medicine we need," but yet they don't call on God; they call on the doctor. Okay, and they forgot that Grandma probably had the most effective
Mm-hmm.
and beneficial remedies that they ever had, and they never bothered. All they did was complain about, "Oh, this tastes awful." They never found out what it was that tasted so bad, but it was effective. And so I find, especially when we're talking about medicine, that you have to provide a person education, because medicine should be healing or have some healing properties. It shouldn't be something, in my thinking, that you have to take for the rest of your life once they've discovered that you have a condition that needs medication. So I find, at least in my practice, it's just educating people, because a lot of times people are taking medicinal plants in one form or another and they don't even realize it. And so they spend a lot of time, energy, money on remedies that don't work. Um, and a perfect example of that is, I saw a neighbor in the middle of the night looking for a cab to run his daughter to the emergency room. I asked him what was going on, and he said every single month that her menstrual cycle came on, she was in so much distress and pain from cramping and other symptoms that he'd have to take her to the emergency room. So I said, before you go to the emergency room, go to the corner store and get a ginger beer. And it doesn't have any alcohol in it, but it's very strong ginger. And he went to the store, got the ginger beer, came home, gave it to his daughter, and he came across the street almost in tears because it was so effective. He did not have to go to the emergency room that evening or any other evening after that to address the discomfort that his daughter experienced during her monthly cycle. And he just was amazed and just kept saying, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. All these years, all these months, all this time. And all I had to do was go to the corner and get a ginger beer.
It's
You
very
know,
interesting. It's something that we all go through as we get older. So I can speak to that exactly myself. So just today, I had, I looked it up. They got a term for it. They called it restless leg syndrome. But basically what it
okay.
was is when I laid down at nighttime, my muscles were balling up and I had cramps and all this stuff. I said, oh my goodness, I said, what's this? And I couldn't even sleep. So
Wow.
I went and looked it up. And what it told me was that the most likely cause of this particular illness was magnesium deficiency. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
And so what it said was to get you some pumpkin seeds, which have a
Yes.
high amount of magnesium in them. Now, my sister actually understood this. Now, and she's not the doctor. I'm the doctor, but she knew better than I did. So I told my sister, I said, Lorraine, I said, I got cramps in my leg and I couldn't sleep last night. And she said, oh, I got something for you. She says, here. She says, rub this on your leg, where it hurts. Do you know what it was? It was a magnesium solution. It was
Okay.
a foam, and I rubbed it on my leg, and it worked instantly because I
Instantly.
had taken the magnesium supplement, but that's going to take days for it to work. But when you rub the magnesium on the actual muscle itself, it soaks right in, and it works immediately. So I was
Yes.
able to get in here and talk to you today because of my sister. So I learned that. So that's
Look,
the
and
similar
pumpkin
thing.
seeds,
Yes.
right?
Yes, that's right. So I'm very familiar with these things. I guess I'm probably unique in terms of doctors because most doctors don't know anything about natural remedies or whatever. We're taught to believe in science, and unless we can have a measure and control trials and this, that, and the other, we're not really allowed to talk about things. But you're right. The remedies that my mother and family had were very effective remedies. And, one of the things we talked about was my mother used to do, well, she called it spring cleaning. So
Mm-hmm.
every spring, she would make this tonic with sassafras and other barks and stuff like that. And she would say, "Here, drink this." We
Yeah.
called it spring cleaning. And something, all of us are up in age and healthy, so there had to be some wisdom, to those remedies and stuff that the people had back in those days.
Oh, sure.
And I
Sure.
remember Aunt Ed Lou, she would have a jar, with roots and stuff like that in it, and she would drink it. So it's really
Yeah.
very interesting. And so I do believe in that. Now, there's something very special about what I notice, and I think that this is something very important for our listeners and viewers to know. And that is that you can't separate the mind from the body. So
Amen.
one of the main things that doctors do is they separate it. So you got physical medicine that deals with whatever ails you or whatever. Then you got mental health or whatever that deal with what the spiritual stuff is. But they're intimately connected. You can't separate the two
Yeah.
things, the mind
And
and the
that's
body. So
that's
please
right.
tell
And
me a
that's
little
what
bit about this, because I know that's important to you.
yes, because like you say, they're connected. It's like going to buy a pair of shoes and you don't know what size you wear, or or you're not willing to try the shoes on. Okay, and you say, oh, well, the guy at the shoe store said this is the size I should probably fit, and you didn't try them on, and so you get them home, and they're not comfortable. And you say, well, why aren't they comfortable? Well, because you didn't give them a try. Okay, you didn't know enough about your feet to know the size of your foot and whether your foot was narrow or slim. People are just not depending on their own knowledge and experience. They're putting the responsibility for their health in the hands of other people. And what I try to explain to people is, first of all, understand that the Hippocratic Oath does not say that you treat for free. As a matter of fact, it says that you do no harm, but you get paid. Okay. So they need to understand that there's a profit margin to health care in this country, okay, and around the world, but more so in this country. And to understand that their best doctor, their first doctor, is their body. So to sit down and really kind of pay attention to what's going on with your body. Okay, were you feeling fine until you drank that cup of milk or the coffee with the heavy creamer in it? That might say, hey, you might be a little lactose intolerant. So instead of going to the doctor and getting some Pepto Bismol or whatever, first stop it with the milk or the cream and the coffee and see how you feel. But it's listen to your body and not to just throw out the baby with the bathwater and say never listen to a doctor, but listen to your body. Tell your body it can heal. A traditional medical doctor, would not ever discuss healing because they don't want to be liable if you're not if you don't heal. Okay, but also their training says that if you don't use their methods, they don't, like you say, they don't know other methods. They know their methods and they believe in their methods, and so they're going to promote their methods and poo-poo anything that you might say, well, like my grandmother used to give me this, or oh, that's old fashioned, that's old wives' tale. Oh, don't mess with that. And so that causes a big disconnect. And people must also understand, so the mind, so the body, and vice versa. You cannot separate them. They are separated all the time. That's a problem because you're a whole person. You're not you don't have compartments to your body, even though they make you think you do. You have a respiratory system, you have a digestive system, but all those systems are in one body and they interact with one another. So it's important that we are mindful of the fact that the body is interactive. Okay, it's not just a compartment that you can say, oh, we're just going to treat this cough you have. Well, the cough might be a result of a number of things. So and so it's that narrow focus that um, impedes the efficacy of diagnosis and treatment in medical care.
Yes, most certainly. And we had a discussion about it just very recently, where we have a model which deals with disease. So a doctor
Mm-hmm.
doesn't want to see you unless there's something wrong with him. You can't go to a doctor for a wellness check, basically, if let's say for Social Security the first time you sign up for it. But after that, you got to have some diagnostic code to write on the form to bill the bill. So our
Yeah.
model is based on a disease. And I
Yes.
argue, and I'm sure that's what you're arguing, that our model should be based on wellness and health. So the natural
Yes.
condition should be well. It should not be sick. Okay?
Yes.
And what a doctor should be focused on is keeping you healthy and well, not treating you after you've already got some illness or thing. So that's where the disconnect comes right in there. The whole principle is wrong. It's all wrong.
Well.
Fortunately, there are some other systems which have recognized that. For example, they have a system in Cuba, which we just talked about, which is focused on prevention. And they have one of the
Mm-hmm.
highest life expectancies. They are in Cuba, and they use a lot of the traditional medicines because they don't have the technology, the equipment that we have here in America. So there are some few people who understand it. Go ahead.
Well, it's like you're fighting to some degree. It's like you're kind of fighting a losing battle because you can't promote the grandma's remedies does not have the how can I say the media machine of advertising behind her, or auntie's remedies. But the other thing is that is it, is it may take time to educate yourself, but it doesn't take that much time to learn about your body. Is to be still, take responsibility for your health care. And I'm not saying that people aren't taking responsibility, but they're taking the responsibility of putting their health care in the hands of someone else. And they're not learning about their body. Like they get a headache and they run and take an aspirin, where that headache might just be indicating that they're tired and they need a nap, not an aspirin. Okay. They may need some water, a bit hot, dehydrated. A
Hmm.
lot of times people aren't drinking water.
Right.
They're buying water and they might as well just go to the faucet in terms of the quality of some of the water they may be purchasing. So it's and so it's for us to take control and to there's very simple things that we can be doing, and that's like I said, sit still. You don't feel good, sit still, ask your body what's going on. The body really does respond back to you, okay? And it will tell you, I'm tired. You're tired. I'm hungry. How many people get hangry? I have a daughter that when she is hungry, she turns from the sweetest, most pleasant person to you're looking for food. Okay? Because you're afraid of who she might turn into from hunger. you know? So sometimes it's very simple, but it takes self-awareness, um, self-knowledge, and responsibility that I'm going to address this first, and then if the methods that I'm trying are not beneficial or effective, then I might go outside of myself. Start calling some relatives. If grandma's still alive, call her, call auntie, call whoever it was that gave you that simple remedy that you found beneficial, or try to remember it. Or even if you find something beneficial, write it down. Start taking it. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to learn how to take care of yourself, but you need to know that your primary responsibility, and then you start looking outside of yourself when you have exhausted your resources or your methods, and and keep it simple. If it gets too complicated, I would just have to get a second. That's when we have to
Mhm.
go for the second and the third opinion. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
That's most certainly true. And one of the things that I agree with you is that you have to listen to your body. Your body tells you when it has, and it gives you the remedies and most of the things there. But many times, our lifestyles and the things that we do, those are the things which cause us damage. I mean, we eat the wrong types of food. We don't get enough rest. I still know people who smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol to excess. So
okay.
you can't do these types of things. Eat pork every 3 times a week and high salt and fried food and cookies and cakes and whatever that. And now that you got diabetes and arthritis and stuff like that, you're wondering what happened. Well, a lot of the stuff is caused by the choices that you made in your life and what you did. So I think that's a very important issue.
Well, we also have to understand that the the food that we're eating presently is not the food we grew up on. Even if we were eating tomatoes, same food, it wasn't mass produced. A lot of times you had, I remember that I would go to my favorite aunt house and we would discuss what wonderful things she was going to cook, and she would actually allow me to say, "Ooh, I would like this, and I would like that, and I would like this." And when we get to the house, she's going in the house, and I'm right behind her, and she's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm going in the house." She said, "You better go pick dinner." Oh, okay. See, so when you're picking those string beans and digging that potato right out of the ground, that's some eating that you're not going to find in the supermarket. Those potatoes that you find in the supermarket may have traveled further than you have
That's right.
in life. Okay. And they might be close to your age. So
Right.
it's
Well,
like,
we had
so,
a segment on that maybe several weeks ago. We had Daryl talking about how you can grow your own
yes,
foods in your
yes,
house, and
yes.
he has invented these special pots. That you can put in
Mm-hmm.
your windowsill and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he grows herbs, he grows peppers, all of that stuff. And in fact, I grow all of my own herbs. So I grow basil, thyme,
Yeah,
all of
so
that.
do I.
I grow that myself, parsley, all of that. I grow that in my
Yeah,
windowsill, and I'm doing
yes,
it using aquaculture or the water, and
yes, yes.
it's
Hydroponic.
remarkable.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
yes,
can grow a
yes,
lot of the stuff. I mean, it's hard, to grow everything, but a lot of the stuff you can grow it yourself, and that way you know
that's
that you're getting nutrition. And I can tell you, but tomatoes that I grow taste nothing like the tomatoes that you buy in the supermarket.
that's right. Look, they
Nothing like
taste
it.
like something, and the ones you buy in the supermarket taste like nothing.
So I'll never
Okay,
forget it.
so,
I think he was an Italian. He came over, and so I said, "Well, I'm going to fix you something right here." And so I got a tomato, and I had basil. Okay,
okay.
so
Oh,
I
oh
had
man.
some what was it? Cheese, mozzarella cheese.
Oh,
And
you
so
took
I
him home
sliced the
with that
cheese, the
salad.
basil, and the tomatoes in the tricolors,
Yes.
and I put balsamic vinegar over it.
Oh
And
my
he said,
goodness. Yes.
"Oh my God." He said, "What is this?" He says, "I've never had anything that tasted like this before in my life because the basil
Okay.
was pungent and full of oil.
Oh
And,
yes.
it was
Yeah.
just, he just loved it." He said, "Can I drink the juice from the blade?" That's how much he
Yes.
loved it. He said, "My wife makes this particular dish all of the time." And he said, "It tastes nothing like what you did." So I agree with you. And, maybe that's
Yes.
something that we can get our viewers to do. You
Well,
can start off very small. Why don't you try to grow some of your own vegetables? And
well, people tell I promote that all the time. I'm like, if you don't do anything but grow a tomato plant,
mhm.
because it's easy to grow. It gets some sun. You can put it in the window. You don't need a garden. You can put it in the window. It'll grow in a pot for you. And I'm allergic to tomatoes, but I even found that um, I can eat them if I seed them because the allergy reaction is to the acid in the seed. But nevertheless, I grow them because they're so beneficial. People love them. Okay, and so I just all summer I'm giving out tomatoes. Okay, I'm like, are you giving me this? I can't eat them. Well, why do you grow them? Because they're beneficial. My kids love them, but my kids are grown now. But that's okay because everybody love them. No tomato goes to waste around here. But I also grow, like you said, your herbs. I grow lemon balm because anybody has a wound should have access to lemon excuse me, raspberry leaf. I
Okay,
grow
raspberry.
raspberries, and the leaves from the raspberries. Anybody that has a wound should have access to raspberry leaf, and the raspberry is it takes over your yard. You buy one plant, and the next year you got raspberries all over the
Hmm.
place. Is lemon balm. I grow lemon balm. Anytime someone tells me they have trouble sleeping, I give them some lemon balm. So we'll try this. This is all natural. I don't spray any of my plants. And they come back and they're like, you have some more of that stuff? And it has a very mild taste. So they really enjoy having a sleep aid that has a very mild taste because they don't complain about the taste, and some of them even find the taste pleasant. So you can grow you a little pharmacy right there in your windowsill, in some big or whatever space you have. You can grow something that will be of benefit to yourself and or your family members. And I promote tomatoes because, like I said, they're very easy to grow, and you can put them in a pot. You can put it in a window. But I do promote growing in any space that you have. Find some space, create some space, because if you really want to taste something good, it's going to be something you picked out of
That's
the
true.
garden itself.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
times are getting tougher now. So I mean, those herbs are very expensive. When you go and get those herbs, I mean, they are very expensive. And the thing of it is the bunch that they give you, if you don't use it right away, it's going to spoil. So if
Yes.
you got your own little plant, you can go and click off a sprig, and then you go back
Hmm.
in a week or so and click off another sprig. You got a constant
That's
supply of
right.
your herbs.
That's right. I mean, you can grow. Because I focused more on it this year, just trying to see if I could propagate plants from what's in the supermarket.
Nah,
Okay,
it did.
because get you some scallions. You'll never buy another one again. Put that bad boy in some dirt and just cut off the top every time
Okay.
you want some onions. You'll never plant them again because they will just continue to
Hmm.
grow. And I actually was able to propagate tomato plants. I got an heirloom tomato.
Hmm.
And what people need to know about, or might help to know about heirloom tomatoes, is they're heirloom because they are of the original tomato plant. They're not this hybrid that just turns red.
Hmm.
They turn red and green and
Right.
purple, and they're really pretty, but they're really kind of odd because we're used to that red flavorless tomato. And I got heirloom tomato, and I was able to propagate some seeds from there. And people were like, "It's amazing! I never had a tomato taste that good in my life." Okay, where did you get that from? The garden, So even watermelons, because I remember being a kid saying, "Oh my goodness, wouldn't it be wonderful to have a seedless watermelon?" Well, just shows how little we know about what we're talking about sometimes. And you can't give me a seedless watermelon for free. I I just so and you're spending more now to get a seeded watermelon. Well, I just want you to know, dry those seeds because A watermelon is pretty easy to grow from seed. Okay, so start picking out the seeds in your food, because if your food does not have seeds in it, it's a hybrid. And all this hybrid food may look pretty, but its nutritional value has been destroyed, is very low compared to the original plant.
Yes.
Okay, and that's what people need to understand. So if your grapes are seedless, you've lost some nutrition that the grapes would provide. Anything that should have seeds in it, if it's now seedless, you're not getting the full nutrition of that plant. Okay, and it's to understand that. I mean, come on, we've gotten so coddled and and preoccupied with everyday living that we can't spit a seed out or swallow it. I mean, I'm sure that we've swallowed some seeds. Come on, especially if you're eating some watermelon, or fresh lemonade. Come on. So, and you can't, and believe me, it's pretty easy to grow a lemon tree from the lemons and from the seeds in your lemon. It's just that they get huge. So I wouldn't suggest that you try to grow a lemon tree in the house unless you're going to grow it for its attractiveness, and understand that it has to stay in a small pot, because the bigger the pot, the bigger the plant.
Hmm. Now,
Uh, you know.
let's change our subject a little, and because I'm interested in mental and emotional well-being. I noticed
hmm
that was listed, and I know that this is going to be a very tough question. How does one achieve, mental and emotional well-being? This is the biggest problem that we have in our society. Everybody's depressed. Nobody's not feeling good about themselves. All of these issues. How do we get to, emotional and mental well-being?
Once again, it goes back to knowing yourself and accepting yourself. See, a lot of times we we've been so chastised from not being perfect or not meeting someone else's expectations that we don't learn to accept ourselves for who we are. Okay, we're not going to have a good day every day. Okay, that we're not going to be 100% every day, every second of the day. Allow ourselves room to be human, and to be just that. If you're in a funky Broadway mood, then sit still and try to figure out why that mood you're feeling so funky right now. And until you figure it out, this is what I do, and I'm in a funky Broadway mood. I say, hey, you might not want to talk to me right now because I'm in a funky Broadway mood. Give me a time to figure out what's going on with myself. Let me go. Maybe I need to take a nap right now. Okay, but allow yourself to be human. Stop feeling like you have to live up to a certain image. Turn off. The research has shown that social media, heavy social media users, they are more depressed. Why? Because their friend took 2 hours before they took that selfie. Okay, and then they see the selfie on their phone and they're like, oh my God, look how good they look. Oh, why can't I look that way? Because you don't have 2 hours to prepare to take a 5-second selfie. Okay, and so it's a lot of what we see, even from our friends and their selfies, have been orchestrated. They're not real. Your friend is sitting in a restaurant and they send you the picture of this plate of food that looks fabulous and it looks expensive, and you're like, oh, they're living a fabulous lifestyle. Oh, why can't I live like that? Stop comparing yourself to other people. Every time you compare yourself to someone else, you have shortchanged yourself. Okay? So we seem to be so accepting of other people, and we haven't learned how to accept ourselves. So that's a big part of mental health, is love thyself, accept yourself, We're not here to be perfect. We are here to learn lessons in life. And if you expect perfection, I always say, and other people have said it, expectations set you up for disappointment. Cut off the expectations and learn who you are and work at being the best that you can be as who you are, not how you don't want to work on being like your best friend, because your best friend is a different person than you. Allow yourself to be different. Allow yourself to be unique. And if you're not going out there and hurting other people, then what's wrong with being different? What's wrong with being unique? Nothing. It's who you are. You're unique. You're an individual. Self acceptance is the first step, I think, towards mental balance. Because if you don't know who you are, who are you thriving to be? Who can you be other than yourself?
I think that's very insightful, and it certainly fits in with what we're doing here on the Insightful Journal. All I can say is I agree with you 100%. And you certainly expressed it, very well. In fact, we just had this conversation with another person that we were talking to earlier about that. And, it's very important to know and to yourself. But also, I think too, a lot of what we're missing is we don't have any understanding of what we are, where we come from, what our purpose is, where we're going. In order to be uh, productive, happy, or whatever, you have to have some sense of that as well. What do you
But
think?
it's it's not elusive. It's just that we haven't taught to be. We haven't been taught to look for it. But it's not elusive because in terms of you know, in terms of spirit being, let me just say, let me try to find simple terms. We are all spiritual beings, every last one of us. Now, what happens is through the socialization process, socialization doesn't look into making us spiritual, even if we come up in a religious household. It's not about your spirit, it's about learning the religious tenets, it's about the religion. Okay. So, so it's very challenging because, especially if you come up in a religious household, because religion wants your commitment to the religious tenets. And so to focus on yourself, you might be told you're being selfish, uh, you're being other than a good person for wanting to know yourself. Is to know this higher being, and the higher being is punishing. Okay, so I find that at least in my experience, um, the most religious people I know are the most closed-minded people because they've been trained to be that way. Okay, why do we have the saying that the most segregated hour in America is Sunday morning? Okay, there's only one entity. Most religions agree that there's only one higher entity, but we don't celebrate or worship or enjoy that entity as a people. Okay, we enjoy that as individual segregated groups, and that's a problem too, because there's a like I like to say to people, when it rains, do you see it just raining on the black community or the white community or the Hispanic community? No, it rains on a geographic area, and everybody in that area gets to enjoy the benefits or the torment of the weather. So the creator is not discriminating. So who taught us to discriminate? Traditional religions. Okay. So I'm not saying now just go and burn your Bibles or stop going to church or whatever you do in terms of your religious beliefs. But I am saying, look at those beliefs and ask yourself, is this belief really in keeping with with how it was intended, how we were intended to relate to one another as individuals and as people? Is it really benefiting us? Or is it telling us something realistic? Okay. If I have to discriminate against you because you practice a different religion than I practice, is that the way it was intended? Does that make sense to a universal God or beliefs of a universal entity, that we're so segregated and we are not accepting of other people's thoughts and beliefs, and we want to ostracize or ban people thinking differently than us? We really need to check ourselves and check some of our beliefs, because we hold some beliefs that are very destructive to not only us as individuals, but us as people. Okay, and regardless of what category you might put
Mhm.
yourself in.
I
Okay.
think that's very insightful, and I agree with you. That's very important that we actually understand. But many times that's used by the hierarchy or the people that are in control, and they've gotten away from what the true meaning of the religion was, and it's become more organized, and it's about making money and getting more followers and so forth. And they get away from the basic principles, and the basic principles of all of the religions are basically the same: to love your neighbor, to have a certain sense of honesty, and and
Hmm.
a sense of what's right and what's wrong, and those are
Treat
the
others
basic.
like you want to be treated.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly,
You know,
yeah.
see, and it's unfortunate, but it's, I mean, if we look at the history of organized religion, it was all about seizing power, having power, and building that power. And so that's when the dollars came in, because how do you build power, especially a power base, is if you can control the resources within the community. So, you get control of the resources, and therefore people will follow you because they need those resources, and they will do what you say needs to be done or should be done in order to gain access to the resources. We don't know enough about the history of the religions that we follow. Okay. And you hear people and you really look into the history of religion. You might say, uh, God doesn't have a religion, so why should I? I mean, that's what I say. And when people say, "Oh, what religion? God doesn't have a religion. Why should I?" Okay, there's only one God. Every religion that I know of eventually gets around to worshiping that one entity. So that means God must love us all, right? you know, that's what it's. I mean, come on. Am I making it too? Am I being too simplistic in my thinking? If there's only one God and we all worship that same God and we all claim that God and the love of that God, and so then God doesn't have a religion, because God loves us all, regardless of the religion, regardless of the language, the color, the practice, the hairstyle, the clothes style. Okay, so we did this. God didn't do this. We did this. We separated ourselves, striving for power and resources.
Yes. Yeah, I have a question for you. I mean, your comments are so good. Have you ever written a book or put these things down?
Well, that's I'm right. I've written for years, because actually I've been, um, like I was sharing with Jerome last night. Um, I've written for years because I have really been practicing all of this. Like I tell people, this is not a hobby for me. This is something that I live, I believe, I sleep it, I eat it, I drink it, I preach it, and 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 I haven't had the time. I'm working on getting a website put up because I've actually have been given the doctrine of responsibility. I've channeled that. Okay, like I tell anybody, if you read the writings, you'll be like, this is not how Doreen talks. She's first of all, she's blunt, she's direct. She's, you know, the spirit is very diplomatic and gentle, and want people to know, I'm human. I can be a little short tempered and short patient, but and so that's what I have been focusing on in the last year is building a website and getting the writings up because in terms of my spiritual work is all written. I've been doing readings for the community for the new year. I've done that for quite a few years. I've had dreams that I wrote down, and I found that in reading other uh, uh, spiritualists and other folks within certain religions, I find that we've had similar dreams. And what I found interesting was that I've seen the same dream that I had written by someone else, like Gertrude. I can't call her Gertrude. I can't call her full name right now. Forgive me. Memory is not what it used to be. But and and the dream, same dream, but she interpreted her dream through her religious beliefs of Catholicism, and I interpreted my dreams through my experiences as a spiritualist. And so we came to basically kind of came to different conclusions what that dream meant. Same dream, different conclusions. Now, I'm not saying my conclusion was right and hers was wrong or vice versa. But I'm just saying that we can have the same experiences and based on our life experience, we're gonna see that experience. We may see that experience very differently than someone else. It's like that game of telephone. You play the game and by the time it gets through all the players, the initial message is so far from the final message is so different than the initial message that all you can do is laugh. Okay, and we're so busy laughing at how things got turned around. I don't think, and I've played that game. I don't think at once that we ever really ask ourselves, how did that stuff get so turned around? How did one message go through five people and it what happened? Did the message lose something or pick up something with each person that was in the game? Because that's the way it seems. And so we all go through life playing a game of telephone.
Yeah. So, our time is starting to wind down. So we're
Mhm.
going to have to start to wrap up now. And so I will ask the question, and that question is, what are your final words that you would like to get across to our viewers on this topic?
Um, Find out who you are. Learn who you are. Don't worry about who other people are in terms of their business. Take care of yourself. Focus on yourself. Allow yourself to be human. What does that mean? That you're going to be successful at some things. Some things may not work out as the way you think they will, but give yourself the right to be human, meaning that it's okay not to be perfect. It's okay not to be perfect. You're not here to be perfect. You are here to learn. Okay, this is the classroom. And so look at this like a classroom. And what happens in a classroom? You learn your ABCs. After you learn your ABCs, it's not over. Now you got to learn how to read. Okay. And as you're learning how to read, it's not over because you have to make sure that you're learning how to read and understanding what you read. Okay. So it's Give small steps. Take small steps. And don't worry about the grandiose, because it's a million steps before you get to the grandiose. Okay, and so just allow yourself to be human, get to know yourself, uh, and love yourself, good, bad, or indifferent. Okay, you got to. It's important that you learn to like yourself, care for yourself, and to keep it simple. Keep it simple. It really, because life is, we make it much more difficult sometimes than it really is. And so keep it simple, and,
Okay.
and like yourself, and learn to like yourself, love yourself. And then you can give it to other people, because you cannot go around telling me I love everybody, but I hate myself.
Right. I agree with you. So, when you come back again, and we're going to have you back on the show, I'm going to want to have that website. You're going to have that website set up. And then I'm going to be able to tell the listeners that if you want to get these insights, you can go right on that website, and these words of wisdom are going to be there. So, thank you
well,
so much for
well,
spending
thank
time
you.
to talk with me. And don't forget to press that subscribe and like button. We want all of our
I
viewers
will
to become
definitely.
members and to follow. We're going to have some very interesting discussions from many different people to come. So thank you so
Okay.
much, and we look forward
Thank
to
you for
having you
having
back
me.
again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Dr. Davis, I want to thank you. This is Jerome. I wanted to thank you very much. You were an excellent guest, and I really do appreciate you bringing out this time to be with us. Your insights about the spiritual part and the plants and everything is right on what we're trying to promote. And as Dr. Robinson said, our goal is to influence the influencers. And I think you did a fine job of that. So I want to tell you thank you very much.